David here with Figboot on Pens. Today I have for you a brand new limited edition fountain pen from Visconti, which was released just a few days ago. It's a pen which definitely is unique, and that pen is the Visconti Medici Il Magnifico Serpentine. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of this fountain pen, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. Thanks go out to Visconti and their US distributor Coles of London for providing this pen on loan for review. The Medici line of Visconti pens is named after a gentleman by the name of Lorenzo de' Medici. He lived in the mid to late 1400s and was an Italian statesman and the de facto ruler of the Florentine Republic. He was a leader in driving Renaissance culture in Italy and sponsored artists such as Botticelli and Michelangelo. He also unified and stabilized the region politically. It was interesting. One of his sons, as well as one of his nephews, both went on to be popes of the Catholic Church. He was known as Lorenzo the Magnificent. Back then, it was more common for leaders to have epithets. Lorenzo the Magnificent, Alexander the Great, and now I know he was a lot earlier in time. Unfortunately, not everyone had the greatest of nicknames. The ruler in the region before Lorenzo was known as Piero the Gouty. And then after Lorenzo's death, one of his sons took over leadership in the region and was known as Piero the Unfortunate. He earned that name basically because he lost control of the region when the French invaded. And then later on, he met his unfortunate end by drowning in a river when he was fleeing from a battle. Okay, enough about history. Let's look at a pen. This right here is the Visconti Medici Il Magnifico Serpentine. Now, there's a lot going on with this pen. Both the cap and the blind cap are made from aged sterling silver, and the barrel is made from a serpentine green Levanto marble. The first model in this Medici series was made with red marble, and this one, like I said, is green. Coming in at a rather heavy 82 grams. This is a very hefty pen. This is a limited edition of 188 pieces, so it's a rather small run. Visconti was founded in 1988, so their limited editions tend to end in 88. I couldn't locate a physical number on this pen itself, but the number your pen might possibly come with the accompanying documentation for the pen. Let's start by taking a look at the cap. On the end is the Visconti logo. This pen does utilize Visconti's My Pen system, where the piece is held in place by a magnet. You could either trade it out for other inserts, like with your initials or a colored stone, or there's a lot of other options. And this insert is pretty secure. On any of my Visconti pens with this system, I've never experienced an insert popping off or anything like that. You really need a decent magnet to get this thing off. Visconti does offer branded magnetic tools for sale, but any strong magnet will work. Then we have this clip. It's Visconti's traditional arched design. It is hinged, and it has Visconti written in raised letters, and the surrounding space is filled with a green lacquer. Now, I'm not certain if they did this with the previous red version, but there's something a little different in regard to the lacquer surrounding the lettering on this pen. They've added a white pearlescent highlights in order to kind of mirror the look of the green marble on the barrel of the pen. I understand the look that they were going for. I just felt that it wasn't necessarily executed the best and was a little unnecessary. I can't say I'm a huge fan of the embellishment. The cap has 8 facets to represent the 8-sided baptistry of St. John's, which is a historical religious building in Florence, Italy, which is located right next to the Duomo. Both the cap and the blind cap are aged sterling silver, and they're chiseled with the fleur-de-lis pattern, which is a symbol of Florence and part of the family crest of Leonardo the Magnificent. I know you can't see it here, but the inside of the cap is actually lined in a plastic material, I believe, which is nice. Exposed silver is going to tarnish over time, and exposure to ink, which would result in a higher humidity inside the cap, would kind of, only expedite the inevitable oxidation. And so when this pen is capped, the inner cap creates a bit of a seal on the end of the pen so that even the section isn't exposed to that same moisture. The cap angles up just slightly, and then there is a step down to the barrel, which is also faceted and made from the aforementioned green Levanto marble. On every one of these pens, the marbling is going to be unique, so they will each look a bit different, but not drastically so. The stone does have a nice, cool feel to it, not unlike the feeling of a marble or a granite countertop. Now, one of my favorite Viscontis I own in my collection is this model here. This is called the Millionaire. It too is made from this serpentine green marble. It isn't quite as hefty as the Medici, but that's mainly due to the lack of silver. Now, since this is stone, I was kind of concerned about the potential it had to break or crack. When I purchased this Millionaire, Visconti actually had a warranty with it stating that it had a lifetime guarantee on the marble. If it should ever crack or break, they would fix it for free. And I've never had any issues with the marble. I even asked Coles of London, and they've said that they haven't had a single one of these marble pens submitted back to them for repairs. So it seems to be a pretty solid material. Solid as a rock, if you will. On the end of the barrel is the sterling silver blind cap with the fleur-de-lis pattern, and the end is slightly rounded. I do like that all of the facets constantly match up on this pen. No matter how you cap it, the facets on the cap are lined up with those on the barrel, as well as the ones on the blind cap. The cap utilizes Visconti's hook safe system. In my experience, this capping system works best on pens with metal sections as opposed to acrylics. I have a few acrylic Viscontis where the cap can get a bit loose, but those with metal sections like this one work great. And when secured, this cap isn't going anywhere, which is good because this thing is pretty heavy. Once you remove this cap, the nib on this pen is Visconti's standard 23 karat palladium nib. I find this particular nib to be fairly smooth and very pleasant. They're all each going to have their own little personality traits. And then here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is sterling silver. It is slightly concaved, and then there's the aforementioned hook-safe threads, which I don't find to be sharp or uncomfortable, even if your grip rests on them. Even though the section is metal, I find that the concave shape helps it from being overly slippery. The cap does post, but you are not going to want to post this. It significantly backweights the pen. While the remaining pen is pretty heavy, the weight is really distributed on the ends where the silver is, and I find it to be very well balanced. The marble is not light by any means, but it isn't as heavy as you think it should be. This pen does utilize Visconti's power filling system, which is what they call their vacuum filling system. The blind cap is unscrewed, it's not inked right now, and you pull the piston back, and then you insert it into your favorite bottled ink, and then you depress the piston, and at a certain point the vacuum inside is broken, and you can usually hear a click. A little noise there. And that ink is then sucked up into the barrel. I always have my Millionaire inked up with Mont Blanc Irish Green. I feel it matches the green marble well. There is no ink window, and I believe that this is a single reservoir system as opposed to some Visconti pens which utilize a double reservoir system. Now, I have broached this topic before, but the question inevitably with pens like this is it worth the price? When you are purchasing a pen in this price range, you are purchasing more than just a fountain pen or a writing instrument. You're buying something that you hope to be a cherished possession, like a piece of art. So some of the value is in the materials and the craftsmanship, and some of that value is going to be in the eye of the beholder. The Visconti Medici Il Magnifico Serpentine is available through most major fountain pen retailers, and the MSRP is just under $2,400. At authorized dealers, you're going to, more often than not, you're going to find this at about a 20% discount, which brings the cost down to a hair over $1,900. There is a rollerball version of this pen, which you will find for a couple of $100 less expensive. Now, that is a rather hefty price, but this is not entirely a entry-level pen. I will say, though, that sometimes when you look at an expensive pen, you kind of get a wonder of, why is it so expensive? But with this pen, I really don't get that feeling. You pick it up and right away, I can understand the value. There's a feeling of quality and value when you hold this pen, not just because of the sheer weight. Between the excess of sterling silver and the unique marbled barrel, the value of this pen is a little bit more kind of readily present, at least in my opinion. Thanks again go out to Visconti and Coles of London for the loan of this pen. I've enjoyed taking a look at this unique addition to the Visconti lineup. So now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. And here we go with some size comparisons for the Visconti, Medici, Il Magnifico Serpentine. Here it is with the Visconti Millionaire that I showed during the review. Here it is with a Opera Metal Speedboat, another Visconti pen, and then finally the last Visconti pen is the Wall Street. Then in regard to some pens which are not Viscontis, we have a Pilot 845, then we have a Parker Dual Fold, then we have a Pelican M1000. So here we go with the writing sample for the Visconti. And this is the Il Magnifico. It's actually a lowercase I and then an L, or a capital I and an L. So sometimes it just looks like II, depending on what font you're using. But it is actually Il Magnifico. Serpentine. This is a medium 23 karat palladium nib. And the ink that I am using is Mont Blanc. Irish green. I just think it's a good match for this pen. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I do find that I really do enjoy Visconti's 23 karat palladium nibs. I find that when they work very well, or they work well, they work very well. And I've had some good luck with these, and that I find it to be fairly smooth with just a hint of feedback. And in regard to flow, I find that these, especially the mediums and more, have no problem with ink flow whatsoever. In regard to some fast writing, or actually some reverse writing, that it works just fine. And in regard to some fast writing, the feed has no problem in keeping up whatsoever. So there we have the Visconti Medici Il Magnifico Serpentine. Thanks again go out to Coles of London and Visconti for loaning this pen for one of their limited edition models that I think that it's very solidly built and a very interesting addition to their line. And like, as I mentioned in the review, you really get a feeling of quality and substance when you are using this pen. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.